miles per hour, 1 mile in altitude and 7 miles downrange already at the Space Center. Endeavour's engines were throttling down as the orbiter passes through the area of maximum pressure on the vehicle, now 50 seconds into the flight.
Endeavour, go at throttle up.
Go at throttle up.
The 3 engines on board are throttling back up. Endeavour flying at 1,100 miles per hour, 10 miles in altitude, and 10 miles downrange. At liftoff, the fully fueled shuttle, boosters, and external tank weighed 4.5 million pounds. The total thrust at launch was 6,425,000 pounds. 1 minute 33 seconds into the flight, Endeavour flying at 1,900 miles per hour, 17 miles in altitude, and 16 miles downrange. All systems continue to function well. Endeavour has 3 good main engines, 3 good power-generating fuel cells, and 3 good auxiliary power units for the hydraulic system. We'll be standing by for burnout and separation of the solid rocket boosters. Combined, the twin boosters provide 5.3 million pounds of thrust to propel the orbiter towards space. The booster officer confirms the SRBs, or solid rocket boosters, have separated. 2 minutes and 20 seconds into the flight.
Stop. H0 moins 1 minute.
And there we are. Now, continue with the ignition sequence. It begins at minus 25 seconds, you said, then at
yes, at minus 20 seconds, the first stage engines are ignited, and the second stage single engine is lit at the same time.
Now, the ignition sequence is in 3 stages. From minus 17 to minus 6 seconds, the engines are tested automatically. At minus 15 seconds is the first controlled ignition at about 20%. There's the gantry pulling back. That's always an
Début de la séquence d'allumage du lanceur.
At minus 7 seconds is the second intermediate pressure, 50%. And then minus 3 seconds, the order is given for the final phase. Full throttle.
Top. H0 moins 20 secondes.
So watch for that.
Largage du mat.
We'll let you watch the final countdown. We'll be back. Enjoy the liftoff, everybody.
Attention pour le décompte final. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Top. Décollage. Les paramètres de lanceur sont nominaux.
So, Soyuz, you saw, lifting off perfectly from French Guiana, beginning her 9th mission from the spaceport. It's always impressive, no matter how many times you see Soyuz powering into the sky. Today, the blue sky over French Guiana. What went through your mind as you watched liftoff? Because you've seen her liftoff before.
No, I think you're right. I saw it already from Baikonur. But this time is also very special. And different it's with daylight.
Because in Baikonur you saw it
during the night
flight.
Yes. Yeah.
And in the snow, I imagine.
No, it was during another season.
336 tons at liftoff. That's half the mass, roughly, of an Ariane 5.
Yeah, the boosters and the central core, or the second stage, are burning now.
And you can see them as Soyuz heads north up the Atlantic coast and then eventually east. The boosters weighing 45 tons at liftoff?
Yeah, total mass of the first stage is 178 tons. The engines run on liquid oxygen and kerosene, the same propellants which are used in each of the 3 lower stages.
Remember, Soyuz weighed 336 tons at liftoff. The boosters will be separated in just about 5 seconds. We're waiting for the DDO to confirm that report, and we'll be able to see it. There's the flame out, and there's the separation. Beautiful. You see the 4 boosters falling away from the mothership. Second stage continues to burn. Now, from 336 tons at liftoff, with the boosters gone, how much does she weigh?
I think we are having 135 tons. So in less than 2 minutes, she loses more than half her weight.
On the bottom of the screen, you can see on the left our altitude and distance and speed. The altitude on the left, approaching 70 kilometers. We're going to separate the satellites roughly around 23,000 kilometers, so be watching for that. Now, the figures on altitude and speed are coming in from the downrange stations, and they're received by the Russian teams in the launch center, where we were just a moment ago, and then they're confirmed before being broadcast. The downrange stations for our system are here in Kourou. There's one called Galileo. It's behind us in Jupiter. The Soyuz signal will next be picked up by a naval station, which is actually a ship out in the Atlantic, right? And then by Santa Maria in the Azores.
Yeah, you're right. It flies, Soyuz flies first to the north and then to the east over Europe.
And over Europe, she's picked up in the south by the station near Toulouse, which is called Osagel.
Yeah,
Am I saying that
that's right.
Then she continues east and south and is finally picked up by Perth, which will see separation of the 2 Galileo satellites over Australia. Now, Galileo has her own stations. These are the Ariane space stations.
Exactly. This is linked to the launcher, so we are having other stations either for the LEOP, when we take the satellites after separation, and also in the Galileo system you have other stations. But this will be addressed later in the video transmission.
When we have some time, right. We're coming up on jettisoning of the fairing. Now, the DDUs just called that out. You see what happens there. This is a camera not on board tonight. It was on board previous flight.
Space Shuttle Atlantis now traveling 389 miles per hour. It is now on final approach to the Kennedy Space Center. During this point in the flight, the shuttle's descent rate is 20 times steeper than a commercial airliner. Its angle of attack more than 7 times steeper. Now under 1 minute to go in Atlantis' flight. Atlantis now beginning what is known as the pre-flare maneuver. It will pull the nose up a little bit right before it hits the runway. Its speed now 320 miles per hour. The gear is down and locked. Main gear touchdown. Atlantis' nose being now rotated down toward the runway, the chute being deployed. And nose gear touchdown. Space Shuttle Atlantis now comes home to the Kennedy Space Center for the final time. 25 years, 32 flights, and more than 120 million miles traveled. The legacy of Atlantis now in the history books.
Copy, wheel stop, Atlantis. Hawk, that landing was something that your Air Force crewmate should have really been proud of. That looked pretty sweet. For you and your crew, that was suiting in to an incredible mission. I'm sure the station crew members hated to see you leave, but we're glad to have you back. And you guys executed flawlessly. And not only that, you had a great time doing it. And that was very evident from the ground. And everybody down here really enjoyed working with you. With that, we'll get you back to work. We'll meet you in the post-landing page 5-3. There are no deltas.
Okay, Scorch, thanks, and thanks to all you guys too. We'll go over to 5-3, and we'll finish up post-landing and turn this incredible machine back over to the ground teams to put her back in the barn for a little bit.
Go for main engine start. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. The final liftoff of Atlantis on the shoulders of the space shuttle. America will continue the dream.
Program, Houston.
Roger, roll, Atlantis. Houston now controlling the flight of Atlantis. The space shuttle spreads its wings one final time for the start of a sentimental journey into history. 24 seconds into the flight, roll program complete. Atlantis now heads down, wings level on the proper alignment for its 8.5-minute ride to orbit. 4.5 million pounds of hardware and humans taking aim on the International Space Station. 40 seconds into the flight, the three liquid fuel main engines throttling back to 72% of rated performance in the bucket, reducing stress on the shuttle as it goes transonic for the final time. Engines now revving up, standing by for the throttle up call.
Atlantis, go at throttle up, no action, DPDT.
Preliminary fuel tank pressurization started.
T-minus 1 minute on my mark. Mark.
And under a minute to launch.
T-minus 30 seconds on my mark. Mark.
T-minus 30.
CBC slew initiated.
T-minus 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we have liftoff of Antares, the Orb 3 mission, delivering Cygnus on its third CRS mission to the ISS. Got main engines at 108%.
Avionics power nominal.
And launch team, be advised, stay at your consoles. Everyone in the LCC, maintain your positions in your consoles. In the LCC, maintain positions at your console.
And for now, standing by for updates and information from the launch control out there at Wallops. We will continue to bring you information as it comes available.
1 minute now to touchdown.
A planetary piece of the puzzle on the beginning of our solar system.
Pitch roll program is in progress. Vehicle pod rates look good. Booster PU has gone to fixed angle, show the burn. SRB chamber pressures have plateaued. I'm rolling off. Signatures look good. RD-180 operation looks excellent at this point in the flight. Mach 1. SRB chambers continue to roll off. Max Q. Boosters throttling up, right on schedule. Engine response looks good. Booster P's gone to closed loop control.
Mission complete, Houston. After serving the world for over 30 years, the space shuttle's earned its place in history and it's come to a final stop.
We copy your will stop, and we'll take this opportunity to congratulate you, Atlantis, as well as the thousands of passionate individuals across this great spacefaring nation who truly empowered this incredible spacecraft, which for 3 decades has inspired millions around the globe. Job well done, America.
Hey, thanks, Butch. Great words. Great words. You know, the space shuttle's changed the way we view the world, and it's changed the way we view our universe. There's a lot of emotion today, but one thing's indisputable. America's not going to stop exploring. Thank you, Columbia, Challenger, Discovery, Endeavour, and our ship Atlantis. Thank you for protecting us and bringing this program to such a fitting end. God bless all of you. God bless the United States of America.
Inspiring comments, Atlantis. We'll meet you on 5-3.
We'll see you there, Butch.
10. VLS is go for main engine start.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Space Shuttle Endeavour, preparing our home in space for a larger international family.
Houston now controlling.
Houston, Endeavour, roll program.
Roger, roll, Endeavour.
Commander Chris Ferguson confirming Endeavour is rolling on course for a rendezvous with the International Space Station. Speed 1,000 miles an hour. Altitude 1 mile. Downrange distance 6.5 miles from Kennedy Space Center already. Throttling down to 72% of the rated thrust as the shuttle goes through the realm of maximum aerodynamic pressure. Altitude 5 miles, downrange 8 miles from Kennedy Space Center. Speed 1,500 miles an hour.
Endeavour, go at throttle up.
All systems remain go.
Tous les paramètres à bord sont numéros.
Well, a beautiful liftoff as Ariane 5 began her mission, rising into the night sky off of French Guiana, a trail of fire against the night sky. Right on time, 2020 local, carrying her passenger Intelsat 29E. So we are underway.
Booster fuse, got close in control. And we throttled back. Correction that we did not throttle back. The roll program is complete. Coming on up on max Q, body rates continue to look good. Max Q. Booster engine continuing to operate nominally. Max Q. Vehicle continues to fly well. Dynamic rates look good. And boosters throttled back. Engine response looks good. PU continues to control nominally. Current altitude is 11.2 nautical miles. Downrange distance 8.1 miles. Velocity is 2,340 miles per hour.
Minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, go for engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff of Space Shuttle Endeavour, expanding the International Space Station while creating a classroom in space.
Houston, Endeavour, away program.
Roger, roll, Endeavour. Houston now controlling the flight of Endeavour. The space shuttle begins its journey back into orbit. Endeavour rolling onto the proper alignment, heads down, wings level for the 8.5-minute ride to orbit, taking aim on the International Space Station for docking on Friday. 30 seconds into the flight, the 3 liquid fuel main engines will soon throttle back to 72% of rated performance in the bucket to reduce the stress on the shuttle as it breaks through the sound barrier. This view from long-range trackers, now from a camera on the external fuel tank showing the bird's eye view of Endeavour heading towards space. 54 seconds into the flight, Endeavour already 8 miles downrange, standing by for the throttle up call from Capcom Chris Ferguson.
Endeavour, go with throttle up.
Go at throttle up.
The throttle up call acknowledged by Commander Scott Kelly, joined on the flight deck by pilot Charlie Hobaugh, flight engineer Rick Mastracchio and Tracy Caldwell, Dave Williams, Al Drew, and Barbara Morgan seated down on the middeck, Morgan racing towards space on the wings of a Legacy.
The next 3 have ignited, and the first 3 have been jettisoned. First 6 solids have been jettisoned. We have a main engine shutdown.
Lost booster data. Lost booster data. Lost.